Hey guys, welcome back. Data flow, similar to all the tasks that we have here, it's a very special kind of task called data flow. So these are all the tasks that we are seeing. Okay. Now again, we don't understand anything about these tasks yet, so we haven't yet described in detail about these tasks. We're going to do that gradually. But there's a very special kind of task called data flow. That is also a task. You can see that sits in the favorites section. Favorites is some of the most important tasks that you have in control flow. Obviously, execute SQL task is an important one. Data flow task is also a very important task. Drag and drop it is just a task like any other. So it and as we said in control flow, it's just like a function call. It's analogous to a function call. So how do you set the properties of data flow? Just the way you set the properties of other tasks. Just go ahead and double click and open it up. And when you double click and open it up, something very interesting happens. Unlike for the other tasks where you are taken to a properties window, separate window pops up. In data flow task, you are taken to a separate tab. Remember the tab I showed you? So that is the tab that you're taken to automatically when you clicked on data flow. So this is also like a function call where you are going to edit the properties of that particular function, the description of that particular function. However, the way to set the properties is through a completely different interface. And it is that complex. Okay, so data flow is, and as one of the reasons why it makes data flow such an important component. Okay, so keep that in mind. So when you want to set the properties for a data flow, it takes you to a separate window. That's the tab that it takes you to. And obviously you can have multiple data flow tasks. So you can, let's say there's a data flow task 1, and you can have one more data flow task here. And the other thing that I wanted to mention related to our discussion on this is very easy to rename your tasks. And obviously as part of your standard naming conventions applicable for your project, you should always rename your tasks. And it's very easy to do that. You can just click on this once, and you can actually rename your task. Call this data flow task, in short is called DFT, and I can call DFT demo 1. I can have one more data flow task, again drag and drop it. You can either drag and drop a task, or it's very easy to copy paste a task also. You can Control C, Control V, or you can right click copy, right click paste. I can Control C and Control V, and now you can see that I have one more data flow task I created here. You can drag and drop your components very easily on the window. So I was just showing you how to rename. Just click on these, click on the names here. It's very easy to type in the names. This is how you can rename the individual tasks here. And it's very easy to move around the components. You can just move them around. Okay, so you can just arrange them as and when you want it. And we were discussing about control flow. We were discussing how each component in the control flow is like a function call, and you're really organizing each of the function calls and designing a broader function, a broader workflow at a very high level in that control flow. Okay, and you can configure the properties, you can double click on them, but a data flow task is a very special kind of task. I named it as a DTF, my mistake. I'm going to go ahead and put it as DFT. It's very simple to edit, as you can see. Just go here, DFT, and this is DFT demo 2. And these are the two data flow tasks that I've created at this moment. Okay, so how do you configure properties of the data flow task? Just double click on them, and it takes you to the data flow tab automatically. And this is, as you can see, that you can same toolbox window is visible, and you can drag and drop components here, and you can form your data flow task. Okay, you will observe that the components, the toolbox components for your control flow and data flow are different. If you go to your control flow, you can see these are all tasks or containers, as we were saying. And analogous, in a very analogous manner, these are what we call as functions, function calls, as we were explaining. But in data flow, these are what we call components. And there are broadly three kinds of components that we have in a data flow. One is a source, one is a transformation, and the other is a destination. The source, a transformation, and a destination, just to repeat. So you can see these are the components that I have in a data flow, and data flow is really the heart of your ETL. Data flow is the heart of your ETL, where you're actually extracting data from your source, you're transforming that data, and you're finally loading that data onto your destination. So that's the E for the extraction, the T for the transformation, and the L for the load. And the E for the extraction stands for the source. You can see these are my sources. The T for the transformation stands for your transformation. the other transforms and the common transforms, and finally the L for the load comes for the destinations, which is the destinations part here, the other destinations. Obviously the source assistant and destination assistant are pretty much the same thing. As the source assistant stands for the E part, and the destination assistant stands for the L part, the load part. So this is basically the heart of the ETL, the data flow. As you can see, this is I come up here, opens up DFT demo 1. If I come up here, it opens up DFT demo 2. And obviously, whatever I perform in demo 1 is going to be different. So you can come here, you can probably drag and drop. Again, very simple to drag and drop the components here, just as we did for control flow. These are all toolbox items. So this is what you're doing in data flow. This is, you can see that it's DFT demo 1. And now you can come back here and you can go to DFT demo 2, and you will see that those components are no longer visible, because that is something that you did in demo 1, not in demo 2. All right, so you can come back to demo 1 and you can see those same components come back up here. You can navigate either going back and double click on them and you can navigate, or you can navigate directly from here. You can navigate to the individual data flow tasks present in this particular package directly from within here. Go to demo 1 and you can go back to demo 2. It's pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory what and how to navigate through these options. Right, so hope this is clear to all of you at a very high level, what we are discussing on control flow. Control flow again is a high level overview of your program, where you're defining what all you're doing, what to perform, step A, then step B, then step C, and data flow really is the heart of the ETL. That's where you're defining what is your source, what are the transformations you're doing, and what is the destination that you're loading the data to. And that's basically another kind of a function call. If you think about it, that's just a module. Think about it from a very again, from a very function standpoint, from a very modular functional standpoint. So whatever you're performing within a DFT is still kind of a function call. So you're performing a task. So it's like a black box. So it's just like saying, you know that I'm going to load this data from an Excel file of retailer A onto my company ABC's data warehouse. That's all that you know. How is it doing it? That's not my concern, but that's just DFT. That's just like a function module that you have here. Okay, hope the analogy is clear, and I really like to use this analogy because it really drives home the point what is the fundamental difference between the control flow and the data flow. Now, just like we did for the other windows, at any point in time, if you think that the SSIS toolbox is gone, it's again a scenario of panic. Many of you panic, and one of the first things that we try to do is go back to the view and see toolbox, bring this up, and you don't see the tools and you start panicking. Okay, what's happening? I don't see the usual tools. What to do? Well, you have to understand the toolbox is specific only for SSRS projects. Okay, SSIS, there's a different way to get back the toolbox. So the toolbox that you see from view is not applicable for SSIS projects. So for SSIS, you need to open it up from here, SSIS toolbox. All right, so this is going to be relevant for SSRS and SSIS this, right? Hope this clarifies. Parameters we're going to talk about later. I already gave you a high level understanding of what a parameter is. It's very similar to a variable. Event handlers, again, we'll talk about it in a little more detail later on, but at a very high level, at a very broad level, event handlers are applicable for certain exceptional situations that your package may encounter. It's just like your try-catch block. From a programming standpoint, event handlers are used to handle errors. And I understand when I say errors, I'm making it a little more specific, but from a very generic standpoint, event handlers are used to handle events. Now, those events could be errors, those events could be anything else. Those events could be warnings, those events could be successful completion of a particular task, those events could be anything. Okay, and you define event handlers through this particular tab. And again, all that you're seeing, all these items that you're seeing are applicable for the whole package. And please understand, we are still in demo 1 right now. So all that we have done here is nothing is moved to demo 2. So all that you're seeing is again specific only for demo 2. Okay, so whatever I'm performing, whatever event handlers I'm defining, they're again respective for that particular package. Okay, and the other important item that I wanted to mention is more from a terminology point of view. I did mention that in control flow, everything is either a task or a container. The other terminology that we use, and again, an important naming convention that we use, is that everything in a control flow is an executable. Very important naming convention we like to use here. Everything in a control flow is an executable. Okay, and it's another, I think it just connects the dots. Initially we were saying that is a function calls, and you can just think about it. Ultimately, a function is nothing but an executable. So you give an input, you return a value, and it's executing something, and it returns you something. So it's ultimately an executable. So think about it, that everything in a control flow is an executable. Why is that important? Now that is important because next up I'm going to go to Package Explorer, and now you will see, next up I'll go back to Package Explorer, and you will see that in Package Explorer you see the term called executables. So let me just collapse everything. So what you're seeing right now is demo 1. Demo 1 is obviously our package. And what is Package Explorer at a high level? Package Explorer is nothing but just like your File Explorer, it tells you what all contents you have in your package. Same thing in the File Explorer, you get to see what all is there in your file or folder. Package Explorer is how you get to know what all is in your package. It's as simple as that. So you can expand it, and you can see that these are all the items in your package. You have the connection managers. I don't have any connection managers defined, no lock providers defined, nothing. None of these, most of these things will not make any sense to you right now, but at a high level, what will make sense right now is executables. Executables is all the items that we have in the control flow. How many executables do we have? 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have 4 executables, and if you go back to the Package Explorer, just expand executables, you can see these are the 4 executables I have. All right, so this is what executables mean. And it's just to see the precedence constraints also. I explained precedence constraints very briefly to you. You see these green arrows are the precedence constraints. Now again, let's not get too much into what is the precedence constraint now. We're going to discuss that in detail going forward, but this is how you define the precedence constraint. These are the total 3 precedence constraints that we have, and you can expand this here. You will see that they have 3 precedence constraints: constraint 1, and constraint 3. You can obviously name them. You can name them appropriately, and if you just click on this, and if you go up, you can see that the name is constraint. If you just click on this, and if you go down, it's the name is constraint 1. Click on this and see the name is constraint 3. It's very easy to change the names from here, right? So it really depends on the naming conventions you're following. So those are the precedence constraints, and at a high level, those are the executables. And what do you do within the executables? So let's take, for example, I took the example of DFT demo 1, and you can see in demo 1 I'm doing, and the same way that we did for control flows, you can, in data flows also, you can actually rename the items. If conditional split, I'm going to call it CS demo 1, right? So I'm going to call this CS demo 1. And here I'm going to call it DC demo 1. So what I've done here is, as part of my DFT demo 1, I have created these 2 components as part of the data flow, CS demo 1 and DC demo 1. You can see that DFT demo 2 is empty, nothing. I cannot configure anything here. So if I go back to my Package Explorer, and if I expand DFT demo 1, if I expand DFT demo 2, you will see I have nothing. Obviously, as I already explained to you, that same as in control flow, you have executables. In data flow, you have components. So whatever you have in data flow, those are called components. You can see there are no components I've defined. There's no event handlers I've defined. And variables is a default feature. So obviously, there are variables. I'll show you how to create variables. But then there are 2 kinds of variables that you have in SSIS. Basically, you have the system variables, which are obviously created and maintained by default. And you have user-defined variables. You can see system proportionate sign, the variable name. So this is basically what defines the namespace. The first part of the variable name, which is system, that is basically the namespace. Okay, and obviously there are user-defined variables which you can create and which you can create from the user standpoint. I don't have any user-defined variables, so, and hence it will not reflect here. All right, next up I wanted to show you, just as I was showing you for DFT demo 2, I don't have any components. Just to show you DFT demo 1, and you can see now all of a sudden I do have the components. Just click on the expand this, and you can see that there's my DC demo 1 and CS demo 1. These are the 2 components that I have as part of DFT demo 1. That's the task, that's data flow task demo 1 that I have. All right, hope this is clear to all of you. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward what we are explaining here. And you can see the same way that another question that you might be asking is, okay, how come variables are present in both control flow and data flow? Okay, the only difference here is scope. So what we are talking about here is scope. Now, the same way that in programming terminology, you have local scope, you have global scope. You might define a variable within a block. Now that variable might be executable, accessible only within that block. The same way you have variables that are accessible within that particular component or within that particular task or within the whole package. So what you're seeing here are variables which are global to the whole package. what you're seeing here are variables which are local only to that particular task or component, right? So come back to control flow, and what I'm going to show here is how to create a variable. Very simple to do that. So right click on it and you'll see the variables option here. Okay, so go to variables and you'll be able to open up the variables wizard, and you'll see the first option is add a variable. The tooltips will come up. Very simple. Click on add variable and automatically you can create a variable. So create demo variable. I'm going to name it as demo underscore variable. The scope is demo 1. So what is demo 1? The first question you might have is, okay, what is demo 1? Demo 1 is nothing but the package. So by default, it will be created at the package scope. It is very easy to change the scope. I'll show that to you later how to change the scope. But by default, the variable will be created at the package scope. At least the way we did it here. The way in which you can create it in a different scope. But then at this moment, the way we created it, it will be created by default in the package scope. You can change the data types. And you can see it's integer, so the value is by default taken as a 0. I can create a string variable. I can type in a string, and it's pretty simple to create a variable here. Okay, demo underscore variable. Now when you go back to the package explorer, you should be able to see that. Let's collapse all of this. Expand your variables, and you'll be able to see the system variables come up. These are all your system variables. So now you'll see the user demo underscore variable. So what's my variable name? My variable name is demo underscore variable, and you can see the namespace is all of a sudden user, because that is a user-defined variable. And by default, namespace is user. Now you'll be wondering that why can't I see the other system variables in my variables window? It's very easy to show that also. Right-click on it, go to variables, and you have to change a few options for that. You can select the grid options here. And you have to select show system variables. So select show system variables. Is by default hidden, it's unchecked. So show system variables, and you should be able to see all your system variables also by default. These are all my system variables. All right. So it's by default. And you can see that you cannot edit anything in a system variable. So click on this, you can't edit anything. Unlike in a user variable where you can actually edit the values. So go back and hide it back, and you can see that the way you can hide the values here, a system variables, it is grayed out. You cannot change the values. You cannot edit the values. You can obviously change a few other options. So namespace is one of the options that I was showing you. I can actually select the columns. So this gives you more control as to what all columns you want to display. You can actually display the namespace column. Click on OK, and you can see by default the namespace is user. You can obviously change it as per your needs here. But when you display system variables, of course, you see the namespace is also something that you cannot change. Unlike a user variable, which you can edit from your end. System, you cannot edit. User, you can edit absolutely everything here. All right. There is something on expressions. It's a more detailed description, detailed discussion, which I'll have later. And expressions are basically one way through which you can control values at runtime. You can make things dynamic. So the same way that I'm entering the value as hello. If you want to make it much more dynamic, you will configure that through an expression. So I'm going to talk more about that later, but just wanted to give you all a very, very basic, at a very high level flavor of what an expression is. And how do you set up an expression? You see the 3 ellipses sign here. Just click on it, and it brings up the expression builder. Okay, very simple, very easy interface, very easy to create it. You see the set of functions that you have: string functions, mathematical functions. A lot of the functions are very similar to what you have in SQL Server. If you're familiar, if you're comfortable with Transact SQL, TSQL, so Microsoft SQL Server dialect of SQL, you should see that most of the functions are very similar and straightforward. It's very similar to SQL. All right, so we talk more about this later. So you can form your expressions, and you can dynamically define expressions through this instead of hard coding values in a static manner like this. And that's how you define variables. And the final thing on moving scopes, you can actually go to variables, and you can actually move the scope of a variable. You can actually come here, and you can move the scope. You can click on this, and it says select new scope. And what you can do is, by default, at this moment, I've defined the scope as demo. You can actually come here, and you can set the scope as data profiling task. Okay, you just remember that. Okay, the next question that you might have is, why am I seeing only 4 options? Because you can only set it to any of the 4 executables that you have as part of your package. So your package consists of only 4 executables in control flow, right? And when we talk about executables, we're talking about control flow. So let's say you want to transfer the scope of this to data profiling task. Click on OK, and now all of a sudden you will see this magically vanishes. You another question is that, okay, how come it vanishes now? I changed the scope, right? But that should still be visible. Now I had it in global scope, I made it in local scope, but it should be visible. And to do that, go back to the grid options and say show variables of all scopes. So right now it is only showing it for the highest scope. So show variables of all scope, click on OK, and you should be able to see this. Now if you go back, uncheck it back, you're not seeing this yet, but when you go back and click on data profiling task, and now when you click on variables, and click on variables now, right? So make sure that you select the option of data profiling task. Okay, so it is inside this that you can actually go ahead and see the variable, right? So it's very, very important to understand how to set that property. Okay, go back to variables and say show variables of all scopes, and now you'll see that the scope is set for data profiling task, right? So it's very simple to change scopes, and this is now important option you should select. So don't get panicked if you don't see the variables which you have defined in a different scope. And this is very similar to what you mean by local scope and global scope. So what it means is that if you have the demo variable, it's visible only within this particular task. Okay, so within this particular task you can access that variable. So outside this task, demo underscore variable has no meaning, has no significance. All right. So concept is very, very similar to local variable and global variable. All right, so that's pretty much it as far as basic description that I wanted to give you. And finally, the final section that I wanted to cover as part of an overview is connection managers. Connection managers, in short, is a way through which SQL Server integration services, that is the data tools, of course, if you use to build SSIS packages, you use it to connect to the outside world. So as part of ETL, obviously you need to connect to different sources, you need to connect to different destinations, and connection managers are your way to do it. So you can connect to different kinds of sources, you can connect to OLEDB sources, databases, Excel sources, flat file sources. All the different examples that we took in the very first two sessions, if you remember, are achieved through connection managers. So in short, connection managers are your window to the outside world. That is how you connect to the external sources, be it a source from where you're taking your data, or be it a destination where you're writing or where you're loading your data. So connection managers are your window. So be it a window from which things come in, the window through which things go out. So this is like a kitchen. This is the place where you're performing your activities, right? See, when you go to data flow and you'll be wondering, okay, I already have something called an OLEDB source. Okay, and again, we'll talk more about this in detail. We won't yet touch upon this at this moment, but even when you say I have an OLEDB source, so what's happening behind the scenes is you're sitting in the connection managers. It's like your kitchen. This is where you build the high-level components, but the actual extraction and the actual loading, the E and the L part, happen in the connection manager. So even when you double click on this, you see it asks you to create what we call a connection manager. Okay, so the actual extraction, that is the source, and the actual loading, that is the destination, happen through your connection managers. So it's a very, very important part of your package. And obviously you can define your connection managers at the package level. So when you do it here, you're defining your connection managers at the package level. You can right click on it and you can see these are all the different options that you get. So first up, you get some of the more popular options, and you can go to new connection and you can see a whole host of other options that come up. All the different kinds of connection managers that you can find here. All right. So these are connection managers at a package level. Similarly, you can create connection managers at a project level. So obviously the difference is, what is the difference between a package level and a project level? So obviously at a package level, the same thing that we've been discussing. Just to give an example here, so OLEDB connection is one of the most common kinds of connection managers in use today, are used to connect to relational databases. So for most of our discussion here, we will be talking primarily about SQL Server, and obviously we'll be using OLEDB connection manager to connect to a SQL Server database. So I'll go ahead and set up an OLEDB connection right now. So click on new, and it asks you for the server name. So my server name is dot or localhost. So it's just the reason why, because we have configured SQL Server in my local system. In case you're trying to connect to an external SQL Server, make sure you give the proper server name or the IP address. So I'm using the proper authentication method. Use Windows, which is tied to your Windows login, or SQL Server authentication, which is essentially, it depends on how you set the authentication at the server level. All right. It's very easy to set these options also, and just to open up my SQL Server and show you this real quick. Okay, not an administration course, but just wanted to show this to you how you can set this. Obviously, it's something that you set at the installation level. While you're performing the installation, but in case you have made some mistakes and you want to correct those mistakes, rectify your mistakes, you can actually go ahead and set some of these things in the properties section. You can go to the server, right click on server, go to the properties, and this is the place where you can set your security. Okay, go to your security and you should see what is the authentication mode that you selected. So by default, it is SQL Server and Windows authentication mode. We also call it the mixed mode authentication, where you can authenticate through both means. Okay. So and in case you forgot your SQL Server authentication, you can obviously reset your passwords and other things here. All right, so that's how you do it, Windows authentication, and you can test your connection. Connection succeeded, and you can select your database name. So I can select AdventureWorks 2014, DW 2014. This is the database that I want to connect to. Okay, so through Connection Manager, you are connecting to a particular database in your SQL Server. Click on OK, and you can see that the Connection Manager is created. Same way that you can rename other objects here, you can go ahead and rename your Connection Manager. So let me call it Con Manager _ OLEDB. Very simple way in which you can configure your Connection Manager. All right. Now, very interestingly, what happens here is when I go back to the other package, demo 2, you can see that Connection Manager obviously is not visible. None of this is visible because, as I mentioned to you just a while back, Connection Managers are exclusive for the package. Whatever you're doing here is exclusive for that particular package. So when you create a Connection Manager here, that Connection Manager exists only in your package. It is not applicable across different packages, right? But think of a scenario where, let's say you want to connect to AdventureWorks DW 2014, that particular data warehouse that I just now connected to, and you don't want to create the same connection across different packages. Let's say even in this package, you have the same requirements. You have to connect to that particular database. So you don't want to go through the same process. You don't want to go to new OLEDB connection and set this whole thing up again from scratch. So what you want to do in such scenarios is create what we call a project level connection manager. Okay, so that's why you have two options. This is the package level connection manager, and this is what we have, the project level connection manager. And obviously we understand that in a particular package you can have multiple, in a particular project you can have multiple packages. Hence, if you create a project level connection manager, you can essentially share your connection manager across multiple packages. Okay, so a very easy way of doing it, and given in this case we have already created the connection manager, a very easy way to create a project connection is just right click on it and say convert to project connection. You can either do this or you can create a project level connection manager. And the way to do that is, again, just right click on it, new connection, OLEDB. I'm sorry, I'm just creating ODBC here, OLEDB. Click on new, the same kind of options that we just saw before. And you can see that all of a sudden I have a project level connection manager set up here. Okay, this is in addition to the package level connection manager. And how do you differentiate? You can see that for project level connection manager, you see a parenthesis project prefixed with the name. You can change the name just to make it a little more readable. I'll call it Project Conman. Right, that's your project connection manager, and you can see there's a .con manager extension. Don't mess with the extension because it really messes things up otherwise. So this is your package level connection manager, which is local only to the package, and this is your project level connection manager, which is applicable across all the packages in this project. So if I go back to demo 2 now, you can see that demo 2 will now see that particular connection manager which I created. Make sense? It will not see the other connection manager. It will not see the other connection manager, but it will see the project level connection manager which I created. You can see project con manager, which is a project level connection manager. Okay, you can convert it back to a package connection, or in the other case, first case, you can convert this back to a project connection. So let's say this is now a package level connection manager, local only to the package. You can actually convert this to a project connection. It's very simple. Now you can see these are both project connection managers, and it's automatically added up here. Go to demo 2, you will see both these options. Pretty simple, pretty intuitive, and that's what I wanted to discuss about connection managers at this stage. All right, so just sharing my screen. This is the Coreplex site that we have here. Click on AdventureWorks 2014 databases, and you see the AdventureWorks DW 2014, either the full database backup or the AdventureWorks 2014 data warehouse script. Okay, we already explained in detail what these two things mean. Script is the .sql file that you execute in Management Studio, and the backup is what you have to restore. All right, guys, so that's all that we have for today. Thank you all. Bye-bye.